I'm on fire.
What is going on, guys? This is the 5-Yard Pass podcast with me, Suddy. This is I'm going to start that again. Sorry. See how many seconds that is. Okay. What's going on, guys? This is the 5-Yard Pass podcast with me, Suddy. This is Sham, and we are talking about the Premier League this weekend. As always, previewing the weekend with some big games. A bit more chill this weekend, Sham, but we'll go through what we think are three big games anyway. So the Merseyside derby, I'd say that's the most violent derby you get in England. And then we're talking about
violent derby. You know it's called. It's called the family derby, right?
In England, in English football, I don't see more red cards than this game.
Yeah, that's true. The most red cards, but it's
that's
known.
What I mean. Sorry,
it's known as the family derby because in England the culture, us growing up in Australia, you sit with other fans from other teams around you. But the only game you can do that in England is Liverpool Everton because you can have a family with split Liverpool Everton loyalties. So they call it the family derby. So it's just funny to hear you say it was the most violent.
I just mean purely on the cards. I didn't know that actually. And obviously we're talking about we discussed before. We thought I was thinking Aston Villa and Leicester. We'll talk a bit about that, and then obviously Man City and Arsenal at the end. I think Man City is just going to pull away, but it should be a good game to watch anyway. Start off with Liverpool Everton. Liverpool, just before we get into the roots of it all, Liverpool in mixed form, man. They played a great game, although against Red Bull in midweek. They scored off 2 errors, but they generally played quite well. But Henderson is still in that midfield, and I think that is the problem. That
I didn't see the game. Do you think that they? Because I was gonna talk about. I really don't think Klopp's tried enough things different. I think he's moved the centre midfielders to centre back and not really tried to change much else. Did he do anything particularly different?
It was nothing particularly different. I think Kabach played that day. I just want to go and confirm that lineup. Kabach did play, but they just looked a bit sharper. They looked a bit more purposeful, and it was an away win as well. Yeah, it was. Oh, actually, I think it was played in Budapest. To be fair, so it was away for both teams. But they looked purposeful. So just really quick, it was in the back. It was not no huge changes. Kabak played midfield. I think he did what you'd been saying for a while, where he played Alcantara pushing up a bit more, and he made Wijnaldum and Jones kind of recycle the ball, and do that kind of job, which made a difference. They didn't look outstanding, and I don't think they will for a while. But yeah, look, I was just saying Everton will be out for it. This is the best chance they're going to get, and I think they're going to take the game to them. I want you to tell me who do you think is going to be key, and do you think Everton can win this game? Do you think they go in as favourites?
It's interesting. Sometimes if you're struggling in one competition, just the fact that you're not playing in that competition can give you a bit of a fresh lease of life. And maybe with Liverpool it was that. We've been struggling a bit in the league, but hey, it's Europe. It's round of 16. We start over again. That gives them a bit of freshness. I felt that they did deserve to beat Leipzig. I think the scoreline flattered them from the perspective that there were individual mistakes. So 2-0 away from home, that's a pretty good result. I think that, like I was saying before, I feel like Klopp probably needs to try a few more things, and I think that it's probably going to be very important in this game. That number 6 position in that formation that they play, the 4-3-3. That's the formation Guardiola played at Barcelona, and he always said the 6th position is the most important position. I don't know if that had anything to do with the fact that he played in the 6th position, but in all honesty, that pivot between defense and midfield is very important. Fabinho did it really well because he was good at progressing the ball forward and stopping counterattacks. It was something that Fabinho always did really well. And Henderson's probably the next best alternative there. So I think the battle in this game, particularly with Everton, Calvert-Lewin has not been playing. He's been injured. He might play for this game. I've heard he'll be back mid-Feb, so I have a feeling he might be back, but I don't expect him to be at 100%. And I wouldn't really expect him to play 90 minutes. So I think the way that Sigurdsson, Richarlison, and Rodriguez play, and the combination that they bring together is going to be very important for Everton. And that when those three play well, they'll dominate that 6th position. So I think that's going to be a very, very important area for that 6 in front of Liverpool, or where the 10 would play for Everton. that position is going to be, I think, where this game is won or lost. And
Yeah.
I would even suggest just rolling the dice and putting Henderson into that sixth position, because I do think it's really important. I get that, he can play centre back on a team that's moving forward. It's not that different to being a deep lying midfielder. It's in transitions and it's in crosses and the ball under pressure in an area where you can struggle because you're not doing things that you're used to. The fact that he's 6'4" helps, but I don't think he should be playing in central defence, and particularly against a team
Sorry, it's
without
Henderson
Calvert-Lewin.
6'4".
He's 6 foot. Henderson 6'4". He's a big boy.
Jesus, I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
He's bigger than Gerrard. Gerrard's like 6'1", 6'2", like, but he's bigger than
I
Gerrard.
didn't realize that. Yeah.
What was I going to say? I think it's worth, if they feel that Kabach is settled in enough, I think they do need to have a serious look at either Davies or Williams or Phillips or someone to play that role and push Henderson into that midfield, particularly Merseyside derby. You want your captain as the talisman sitting there, dominating the game. And I think that that's important for them. I think it might also be worth a look at changing the front three in the way that they work. Firmino's played left for Hoffenheim. Mane's played right for Southampton. Maybe try that with Salah as the 9. Try something a little different. Throw something at Everton that they're not necessarily used to. Particularly Everton, they're missing Calvert-Lewin. They're also missing Mina, the giant Colombian fella, the 6 foot.
Very Mina, yeah.
6'5", however big he is, the giant man, the one that they hit all the set pieces to. But so I think just with a slightly different defense, it might just be worth throwing something different at Everton, and that might be the way to go. Play Salah as the 9, let Firmino create out wide, let Mane stretch things right. It might even allow to have Mane on the right running a bit wide at times, might allow Alexander-Arnold to sit in pockets of space and have options out wide, as opposed to just hitting deep crosses in all the time. And just having an extra fill out wide might help him. The way that Everton can win this game, like I said, in the 6th position, I also think they'll try as much as they can to get Richarlison one-on-one with Alexander-Arnold. So I think the way that Liverpool manage that would be very important.
Yeah. As I said, Everton will fancy themselves the most they ever have. Everton have been in very patchy form, right? So losing to Newcastle, losing to, fair enough, Man City. Everyone has to take that loss. Losing to Fulham, losing to Newcastle, having a very exciting game against United and Spurs. So they seem to almost up for it for the big games. But it's as opposed to previous years, they don't have a problem scoring this year. They really don't. They've scored. I think they've scored in every game in the last 5 of the last 6 games they've scored. But they seem to just kind of switch off against teams they really should be beating, i.e. against Newcastle and Everton. Okay, so
sorry, I'm just looking at the Everton.
Yeah, you're looking at the form, yeah. So this, I'll just kind of delve into Liverpool a bit more from my perspective. Liverpool in a precarious position now, where I think Klopp has kind of came out and conceded the title race. Are they going to put all their resources into Champions League? I don't know, and I don't know because of what we saw last night, 2 nights ago, with him playing a makeshift. It is still, if you're putting Henderson in the back, it's still a makeshift defense. And I'm sure he's heard the cries of saying, fuck it, put Henderson back in. We need him for the press, we need him for the movement, we need the leadership midfield. And I'm in the same boat as you. I think we've said this a few times as well. I think Henderson can go back. It's almost like a what have you got to lose situation.
Yeah.
But the problem is they don't have a replacement for Henderson going into that, except for Nathaniel Phillips, who I think the gap's too big. But
I think
again,
he can do it, but he does have a mistake in him. I think Williams and Phillips have played better than most people thought. Klopp clearly doesn't trust both of them together. But
what I was going to say was to that is, in the same way, Gary Neville made a good point, and I'm kind of like bringing that point into the Liverpool context, where he said Maguire's problem is Lindelof and Lindelof's problem is Maguire. And I think maybe Klopp sees that with Phillips, Nathaniel Phillips, and Kabach, for example. They could be each other's problem. When Gary Neville said that about Lindelof and Maguire, I was like, oh,
I get the point about Lindelof and Maguire. I don't understand. Phillips and Kabach have not played together before, so why?
I'm saying maybe he sees something in training that we don't. There's so many. I mean, there's a million moving. That's my point. I wasn't clear in that, but there's a million moving parts of this team. us fans just sit back and see, oh, you just turn up and play for the, you know better than most, Sham. So, like, guys in the ins and outs, of how tiring it is and things that managers don't see. So
It
I think
shows,
that's I
yeah,
think I think that's that could be it. And he sees something that we don't see, and it's just not a safe option.
it shows how important Fabinho is. Fabinho covered the
How
three the
good he
three
is as
centre
well,
backs
man.
being out by just having that position and having everything organised around him. So now
Yeah.
Henderson can do what he does in midfield with Fabinho behind him, even without the centre backs. But without Fabinho, Henderson's is going against the
It's
tide a bit. Like it shows how
Sham,
important Fabinho has been to that team's success.
you work at a bank, okay?
Yes,
One
I
of
do.
your
Thank
one of
you
your
for
best
reminding me.
one of your best bankers takes a 9-month leave, and then another one does, and then another one does, and you got to cover for all of them, and you do, and then you decide to go and leave, and your bank's fucked. Defaults
Yeah,
on all its loans.
it was one too many. But I do think that even I think that Fabinho is a much more important piece of the puzzle than I think people give him credit for. And there are players and teams and
Yeah.
systems that have that, and I think he's been that player to them. It's interesting because you're either playing Henderson at centre back and someone like Jones in midfield, or you're going to put Henderson in the midfield and perhaps playing with Alcantara and maybe a Wijnaldum and
Mm-hmm.
have Phillips at centre back. So which one is the more interesting one? And I actually lean in this game to Henderson playing in the sixth role just because Everton don't have a recognised centre striker without Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah.
So if there's a game for him to try it, I think that this game. You wouldn't do it against Leicester, against Jamie
Mm.
Vardy, for instance. But I think in this game, it might be worth a shot.
Yeah. Okay. I want a quick summary of the game and tail into a prediction.
Summary of the game. The game is Anfield, isn't it?
Yeah. So how you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
How do you
do
think?
I do think that Everton will look to keep their shape. The way that teams are beating Liverpool is with a low block, and I think that they're going to try the same thing that every other team has, where there's four at the back. The wingers go and mark as in the Everton wingers go and mark the Liverpool fullbacks. They'll try and win the ball and move forward quickly. So, and that's again why I'm emphasizing the six role, because the six can cut out the defense and concede professional fouls before the ball gets too far down the pitch. But I do think that Everton will look to defend first and counter. I think Liverpool will try the same thing they do at Anfield every time, which is to attack and to press and to play that style. It was interesting how brittle we talked a bit about against Leicester, how brittle they are. How when they conceded, they fell off. They didn't concede against Leipzig. So is the brittleness still there, or is it not there? So I think in this game, the first goal is going to be absolutely crucial in deciding the outcome.
Yeah. And score?
I'm actually going to go Liverpool 2-1. I think Liverpool can nick
Okay.
it. It's more.
Okay.
I think if Everton were playing the way that they were earlier this season, I would pick Everton. I just think Everton have come down as well. I think it hasn't really been noticed. I just think Liverpool's levels come down a lot, but Everton's levels not quite there. If they had Calvert-Lewin, I would pick Everton.
I think it's going to be Liverpool win as well. I think my argument there is that I'm very much in your boat with the tactical perspective of what you said, but from a kind of non kind of tactical perspective, there's too much at stake here. Liverpool lose this, the free fall could be very real for the next few games. They lose this, they could drop below. They could drop below Villa. Spurs could overtake them.
Everton as well.
Arsenal, yeah. Everton will. Is my point. Yeah, Everton does. Villa, Spurs, Arsenal's in touching distance. It's just not a nice place to be, and I don't think Liverpool allowed themselves to get this far. Beating Red Bull Leipzig is a big deal, and I think there's a little bit of confidence.
We've talked a bit about United sort of winning games and Solskjaer's on the brink of being sacked.
Yeah,
I don't think Klopp's on the brink of being sacked, but I think they'll win this game for him.
there's a similar feel. There has that feel.
Yeah.
You feel like he'll get sacked, but he's actually not going to. Yeah, I do. There is that as well for sure.
Mm.
I'll go for Liverpool win as well. I think it's going to be like a 3-1, a good solid win. They have turned up in some of the big games this year. Spurs from a few weeks ago being that example. I think they'll do it again. Okay, we'll move on to the return of the Empire, as we call it. Man City just. Excuse me. We'll talk about Villa first. Villa Leicester. It's a very good game, I think. Two very positive, potent attacking sides. Aston Villa perhaps arguably has. We say they've dropped off, but they still have that 2 games in hand. They had 3 at one stage, and winning those 2 puts them right into the Europa League, Champions League spots. Leicester, perhaps draw.
If they won both of their games in hand by 4 goals, as in 2 goals in each game, they go fourth.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's probably sign of how good they're going.
I mean,
And all the teams they're playing the game, I actually don't know who exactly is. I know one of them is Tottenham. I don't know the other one, but it is against a team lower in the table, so it's very winnable. Sorry, go on.
No. I was just gonna say both are both sides very counter-attacking, very good kind of individual plays, great moments. But I think Leicester at the minute, arguably, I think it's very clear that they have a very good club and team structure in place that you can see kind of taking chances against these. How do I say? Leicester would want to go and win these games and win these games in a fashion that says like, we'll beat you now, we'll beat you next February, we'll beat you 3 years from now because now we're a top 4 side, you know. And this is the kind of game you want to win. Losing against City, losing against Liverpool, no one's going to bat an eyelid. But this is the games they want to just go. They want to flick it off like a fly. And I think Villa have it very good this season. And you have to be relative to where they were last season.
There was talk about them being relegated, losing Grealish. Imagine the direction the club could have gone in versus where they are now. It's a great shout out to them for a great season.
Yeah, and there's always these kind of cult heroes who just kind of stay for too long. And I think I personally feel this is Grealish's last season. If they miraculously make the Europa League, maybe not. I don't think they'll make it. But if they don't, if they kind of slip into 7th or 8th, I see Grealish moving on. But he'll always be remembered for kind of staying on and being that guy for an extra season and playing, and not just that, but playing good football, man. Like Grealish is the best chance creator in the league. So both teams have had very, very similar forms. Villa 3 wins in the last 6. Leicester as well. Oh shit, Jesus, wrong game. But yeah, both teams have been good form. Give me a second there. Yes, excuse me, I'm on the same page. Both had 3 wins in the last 6. I think it's going to be very even. Both teams have, but the thing is, Leicester played yesterday against Prague. Apparently, I was watching the United game, so I didn't watch this game. Apparently, a very good game. Apparently at 0-0.
I watched it actually. It was a
you did? Oh, right.
The best 0-0 draw I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was like I saw the live.
I think 3 times the post listed or something. Like, it was ridiculous.
Scintillating game against. I was like, it's 0-0. Like what? Anyway, that could be a factor. What do you think? They're playing that extra game, or before that, or is it a case of Leeds again? And I do kind of give them a bit too much of compliments here, but is this a case of Leicester going, no, we're a big club now, we play Wednesday, we play Saturday, Thursday, we play Sunday?
It's funny because I was just looking through the UEFA Cup results and it was the Europa League results, and it was like, so United, Arsenal, Tottenham, Leicester, you know, and then look at a place at all, and that's a sign of how far the club has come along. I do have questions over the number of bodies that they have in terms of the ability to really get through the games. I think the FA Cup. I think they're still in the FA Cup as well, right? So they'll have 3 competitions to.
Yes,
they're playing United next, aren't they?
They do, yeah.
Yeah. So I have questions over the number of bodies that they have available, but they don't look out of place where they are. Vardy didn't play on Thursday. Iniacho played, so I think he'll be freshened up, and I think that there's obviously less league games. Depending on how far they go in the cup competitions, that's what's going to fill up their schedule. But they've kind of just about covered the backlog in the league, and the league starting 5 weeks late. They're just about there. So it's not going to make too much of a difference unless teams are going far in Europe and in domestic cups and that sort of thing. The thing with Leicester is they've got a couple of pretty bad injuries. They've got James Justin, or Justin James. I get confused when people have 2 first names as their name. But and Fofana are injured for a while, and I think that Fofana's it was his first season at the club, and I get it. But James was playing really well. There were England whispers around him. That's a sign of how well he was playing. I think not necessarily in this game, but I think over the course of the season that could have an impact on them. But like, you got to love what they're doing. You know, the way that they built a team around. The first title-winning team had that sort of strong Drinkwater, Kante axis. Their midfield axis now, I've said it several times, Maddison, Ndidi, and Tielemans, as good as anyone in the Premier League. You know, like if you said those 3 play for City or play for Liverpool, you'd be like, yeah, like they're that good. I see them, like you said, this is an important game for them to win well. Just to
Mhm.
sort of swat Villa aside, it is an away game as well. I have a feeling Villa will try and come at Leicester, and Leicester will try and pick them off. Um,
Mhm.
with I think that the midweek games will have an impact on Leicester, but I think the fact that Vardy's going to be fresh, I think that
Mhm.
that gives the difference here. And
Yeah.
Villa, for all of their like, they've scored a good number of goals this season, but you take out that Liverpool game, it's not the greatest stat. They
Mm.
do tend they have a good goal. They conceded 24 goals in 22 games, so they have a good defensive record. But I
Mhm.
do think that and with Villa, Mings has been playing pretty well, and the keeper Martinez, who used to be with Arsenal, I think, and moved over to Villa to
Mhm.
play first team. Um, they've been standouts, but I just think that Vardy will pick their pocket. I actually do see. I see it as I actually put 3-0. I know it's a big score, but I just think that there'll be late goals. I
Mm.
think that it will be 1-0 until late, and then there'll be something picked. There'll be a couple sort of picked apart goals at the end as Aston Villa chase the game.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So speaking of Aston Villa, Jack Grealish playing really well, just in general. He's been arguably one of the best players in the league behind the likes of Fernandez and Fernandez as well. So
Who are you talking about, sir?
do you think I'm just talking about Grealish is one
Oh,
of the best
really?
players
Yeah.
in the league. Do you, what do you think? What do you think? This is more not. This is a bit less about the game, but what do you think prevents a team like Leicester or Villa, who have players like you just said about the middle three, the axis in the three? It's a great point. What do you think prevents them from going and winning the titles, or feeling they could win the title? Because of all the talk we do talk about Leicester, and now you're saying you're making an argument for them having one of the best midfields in the world, really, if you're going to say Man City. What
Mm.
do you prevents them from winning the league? And I'm not talking about specifics. Like more talking about the management of the club. Is it now a case of, are we seeing a case of these are managerial battles? Because I believe the standard for the player has risen, has everyone has kind of equalized a lot more, and the difference between say a Vardy and an Aguero versus Cavani versus a Rashford, it's you could even argue Vardy's the best of the lot because he's so consistent.
Mm.
But what prevents a team like Leicester from winning the league again?
Yeah, it's interesting. If you look back in like the 60s and 70s, before Liverpool had that run of dominance, you almost couldn't pick who was going to win the league. Like, there was a lot of teams competing at the pointy end of
Mm.
the league.
So it's happened before.
When the money came into the Premier League, which is around when the time the Premier League started, United and then Arsenal kicked away, and then Chelsea came in with their money. But just given the amount of money in the league right now, sorry, you've got a whole bunch of teams that have been around for a while that have the money. It's interesting when you look at there was those proposals a few months ago to create that sort of 9 team that's European Premier League or the Super League, where you had sort of 9 teams making all the
Mm.
decisions for the league. So Southampton and West Ham are in there. It was decided that the 9 teams who've been in the Premier League the longest would have the
Mm.
decision making say. So it was shocked me to see that Southampton and West Ham were part of those 9 teams.
Mm.
So there are teams that sort of been around for a while, gathering the TV money every year, gathering the gate every year, and they build and build and build. And yeah, this is a league where you do need outside investment to do well, but there's just so much money around that, the amount of money that needs to be spent, like, clubs have that in order to do well. And the
Mm.
aim for a lot of clubs is just to make the Champions League. So there's a lot of clubs that are jamming in trying to make the Champions League. Um, and when you make the Champions League, you're not that far away from the title. I think the spend to push on and get to the title is actually exponentially harder. So at the moment, you sort of got, I think Liverpool and City still sit above everyone else, but everyone else is trying to jam themselves. You've got about 8 teams fighting for 2 spots in the Champions League. So it creates this
Yeah.
plateau of teams. But who at the moment, like United don't even seem to try and be winning the title. Chelsea don't. Tottenham don't. Arsenal don't. They're supposed to be the big six. There's everybody's kind of aiming for the Champions League, and the expectation is you make Champions League, and then if you can make the Champions League, then you'll try and win the title. It's just that the gap at the moment is just between City and Liverpool and everyone else. I think it's
So
just too big.
perhaps winning, perhaps getting in the top four, that third and fourth position, it's kind of the great equalizer. It can equalize you for a few seasons because you get, I think it's close to 100 million, 200 million in TV plus awards. Like,
It's like winning
winning
a
group
cup,
phase and all.
isn't it? Like,
Sorry?
it's like winning a cup, like
Yeah,
getting third or fourth. It's
you
a very significant achievement.
I mean,
now.
you compare that
It
to
shouldn't be, but it is.
you compare that to the 15 million pounds you get from the FA Cup. I know a team's going to sacrifice. Oh fuck it, we'll give it a go next weekend when we're not playing the FA Cup. I think they are, and
I'd
this coming
love
back
to
to
see this one happen, but I would love to see the winner of the FA Cup go to the Champions League. I think that would change the FA Cup. I don't see it happening because the Premier League won't do it. But
I think it's a bit sad that like there is. I just have a general vibe, and that there's a loss of importance that fans place on the FA Cup these days, and it is because I'm sorry to say, but it is because the likes of Klopp playing 12 youngsters, or Wenger doing that for a while as well, playing his youngsters there. When they went, teams never really put out their best sides, haven't really put out their best sides in the last few years. And I think that Klopp game last year was kind of the epitome of it when he played all those kids against, I think it was Aston Villa. Yeah, it was Aston Villa. Oh, was it Arsenal? No, it was Aston Villa. They lost 4-0 or something.
you're not talking about this season. You're talking about last year when they had to go play the World Club Cup, right?
No, I'm talking about a game before. So it wasn't the Aston Villa game then. That's fair enough. There was a game before that or after that when they were kicking on to win the league. I'm trying to get this right. But he did mention something, and there was a bit of an outcry saying, like, come on, man, this is the oldest cup competition in the world and all this. Yeah.
He's routinely rested first team players for cup games. Not the United game this year. I think that's because it was Man United. But he has routinely been knocked out early in the FA Cup club. Yeah. I think the reality is finishing second, third, or fourth in England is bigger than winning the FA Cup now. Whereas when we were growing up, you probably want to win the league over the cup. But winning the FA Cup was kind of like better than second in the league. But nowadays it's kind of like, well, if you finish fifth in the league, you qualify for Europe, and if you win the FA Cup, you qualify for Europe. So it's kind of gone down to that level. And I think a lot of big teams are just like, it's the same thing with the Europa League. Everybody plays their reserves in the group stages. When they get to the knockouts and they start realizing, oh wait, our league chances have gone away. Let's try and get into the Champions League through winning the Europa League. And then you've got 27 English teams in the semi-finals because they've all been playing their B squads. They get knocked out of the league, and then okay, we'll go and try and win the Europa. Yeah. And same thing happens in the FA Cup. If we get knocked out now, we get knocked out now.
Yeah. Let's shift gears back into the game. So a prediction, Sean.
This game, I've gone for 3-0 Leicester. How about you?
I was going to say 2-0. I think it's going to be an exciting game. Again, lots to play for Leicester. Actually, lots to play for both teams. And also, to be a bit selfish, I hope it's a 2-2 draw. I think that'll be a nice little boost for United to potentially tear ahead. Speaking of tearing ahead, we move on to champions-elect Man City, 10 points ahead. Who would have thought this 4 or 5 weeks ago? Yeah. I would have, Sham, because I said Chelsea was going to win.
Apparently, they've set a record now: 17 consecutive wins or 16 consecutive wins in all competitions.
Hell, man! Was it Chelsea they beat?
The most recent.
No,
United. It was United.
Oh, it was United. So yeah, look, 10 points ahead. They're just about caught up with United's goals scored. They're just a goal shy, and they play Arsenal. Who did Arsenal play in the week? Just then, Benfica yesterday came off a 1-1 draw. Man City beating Everton in midweek 3-1. Not much to analyze here, Sham. I think we know who's going to win. I just thought it's a big game in its name. It's a big game to watch.
It's kind of sad to see the game.
The point I have here,
Arsenal were this team 15 years ago with the Invincibles, and now they're just falling down to mid-table. And City have risen from mid-table to like in the Invincible season, you'd probably exactly. From that perspective, it's a bit of a shock because but I've been accused at times of ripping in Arsenal a bit on this podcast, but the reality is they are a mid-table team at the moment, playing in a 60,000 seater stadium that fans have to pay the highest ticket prices in the league to go see. The reality is, you look at both of these teams, and the story is kind of around the quality of player. So Arsenal have gone to the transfer market to buy guys, but they're not quite the same level of the guys that have left. And there were questions about Manchester City, whether they were doing that. And it's interesting when Manchester City's transfer strategy, they're not going out and buying £100 million players. They're buying a lot of 50, 60 million pound players, guys who are above average. And the team, like Diaz is 60 million, Stones is 50 million. You look at their fullbacks when they went and bought the fullbacks. Edison might actually be the most expensive signing, I think. Oh, he was 35, wasn't he? 35 mil or something like that. I was referring to
I
was thinking of Allison and Kepa. Sorry, when I said that. So there's a lot of players at this football club that you're not paying Paul Pogba, Gareth Bale prices for, but a lot of players that you're paying 50 to 60 million pounds for that are playing with other 50 to 60 million pound players, as opposed to a Paul Pogba who's playing with players who are not quite worth the sums of money that they're necessary. I know that he's playing guys like Bissaka's at 50 million, who cost 50 million pounds, but United have overpaid for certain players because United are trying to reach the top. But because City are at the top, they can take their time. They don't have to pay so much of a City tax because people want to go and play for them. So it's a story about, as good as the players are that are going there, it's because they're also playing with other good players that they're playing at a higher level. Whereas Arsenal's gone the other way and gone down.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about the 50, 60 million players, but look, for cut price, I just went and checked. I was fairly sure he got it for a discount. But the best player in the league, the best form player in the league, Gundogan, £20 million now. I wanted to ask you about him as kind of the talking point of this game. He missed the game against Everton, I believe.
You sure? I thought he scored.
No, sorry, he scored. Excuse me. He was in doubt to miss the game. Sorry, he was in doubt. I remember thinking that he wasn't going to play and they might win and Everton might win. But how he has been immense, absolutely immense. And I think he scored like 6 in his last 5, something like that.
Yeah.
Talk about a bargain player, man, because he came off a knee injury last year, 2 seasons ago, and he never quite kicked on until quite recently.
Sorry, I'm trying to look it up here. I can't see him on the thing. He may not have played the game.
Which game am I thinking of? Jesus.
I've got Everton, Man City, Everton here. No, he didn't play in this game. So you're right, he didn't play.
That's he didn't. Okay.
Yeah, Rodrigo, Silva played midfield. Yeah. So they bought Jesus in. It's interesting with Gundogan. I always remember him in the Dortmund teams being praised as the next big thing. In Germany, there's a lot of players with Turkish extraction. That are even coming back to what was his name from the 99 Bayern team?
99. Sammy
No, he's Bosnian. That was he played it with Stefan Effenberg in the center midfield. I forgot his name. I can look it up, but a lot of German players with Turkish extraction. But apparently, it's around that Dortmund area as well. I think there was one year the Galatasaray got banned from playing Champions League games at home, so they played them all in Dortmund Stadium and got sold out stadiums. Like there's a lot of people with Turkish extraction there. He was seen as a bit more of a number 8, but more through passing ability and progressing the ball as opposed to running forward. And then he got quite a bad injury, and I think that's why City picked him up for 20 mil. But he's really it's a great story of a player who's just sort of backed himself in, and a little bit under the headlines as well, where you didn't necessarily expect him to be the guy to sort of kickstart that team. But we talked a bit about City sort of changing up their formation and playing with the sort of the double pivot in centre midfield and letting De Bruyne go a little bit free. They've changed that up again now. De Bruyne is injured, but Gundogan is still sitting deep outside of possession and bursting forward and making those types of runs. And I think sometimes we have a lot of footballers now who have great passing ability, but we don't necessarily have a lot who run into space and run beyond defenders. If you watch a lot of young Roy Keane videos, he scores a lot of goals running through the right channel and scoring. Even Gerrard and Lampard, Timmy Cahill scoring goals, running in from deep positions. It's not something you see a lot in modern day football. It tends to be more about midfielders versus midfielders and attackers versus defenders and that sort of thing. So Gundogan brings something that you don't see a lot of in the modern game. McTominay's been doing it a bit for United recently.
I was just going to say McTominay.
You don't really see a lot.
You're seeing little spikes of it, but you're not seeing. Not consistent.
But if you think 10, 15 years ago, even like Roy Keane's time, Patrick Vieira was good at doing that. And a lot of players would be released from deep positions because I think it's the way that football tactics have gone. It's about players sort of holding positions and being afraid when people necessarily lose position. But City have found a way to manage that. And
Well, it's a gamble. It's a gamble, isn't it,
releases
Sham?
him because there's no direct player for him when he runs forward.
That movement is a gamble, but it's a kind of high payoff gamble, high risk, high payoff gamble if you choose.
Yeah.
And it's also very un-Guardiola like to allow his midfield to be a bit more mobile than normal. Like you remember, Xavi, Busquets, and Iniesta, as much as they were the best players of their time, not very
They didn't
mobile,
make
not
runs
very
from deep
bursting in.
positions,
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
I thought, yeah, I referenced as well. I think Scholes as well was a player who did that quite well. Maybe not as often as Keane, but he did it very well. I mean, a lot of his goals came into these kind of late runs, and this puts a very quick overload. Not sure who to track who, and you get a goal out of it. Gundogan's doing that so well in the absence of a recognized, a proper striker playing regularly in Jesus and excuse me, in Jesus and Aguero and the other guy, what's his name? Not Rodrigo. I can't remember the new guy they bought from Valencia. What's his name, Sean?
The striker.
I can't remember. Yeah, they got a new Ferris.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say it shows the level of trust that Guardiola has in his defense that he can release from the gun to do that. Because that success that they've had is built around that. Diaz, but I think Edison's been playing pretty well. Not got the headlines for it, and obviously John Stones. That he's got enough trust in those three that he can release players to run forward. And like you said, it's not a Guardiola thing.
It's a fresh John Stones on Saturday. He didn't play during against Everton, and he will play against Arsenal. I don't see this any other way, man. I'll put a prediction out there. I think it's going to be 4-1. I think Man City are going to steamroll Everton. They're going to be the top scorers of the league, best defense in the league, and we're just going to see. It's very hard to see them even draw a game, let alone lose. Honestly, they're playing.
They will have bad days, but they are far and away better than everyone else in England at the moment.
Not necessarily champagne football, but they're just playing effective. Let's go. Like that early goal, they've got that early goal back, man. That mojo to get an early goal, it's well back with them. So, as I said, very hard to see. I'm gonna go 4-0.
I'm gonna go 3-0.
Arsenal.
I'm gonna go 3-0. I think that Arsenal will. I don't think it'll be an early goal because it's at the Emirates, but I do think that City will just tear them down. Great, it would be death by 1,000 needles, I think.
Exactly, and
the whole thing will fall apart.
It's a thing of beauty to watch, though, when a team does get their mojo together. That
even if you hate the team,
a team gets their mojo together. Yeah, it's a good football, but I say, the way we say it, rise them. Empire Strikes Back. Man City getting their mojo. It's like it's a nice thing to watch, and then you look at United. I now look at United when they had that kind of really nice purple patch and we thought they're going to win the league. I was fully convinced that they were going to pip Chelsea to the league. That you can see how I say fake. I don't mean that so maliciously, but you can see how fake that mojo was compared to this mojo, this ascendancy. It's a different type of ascendancy. That's very temporary. It's like a stock being overvalued for a few days. And then
it was a question that I tried. I didn't ask you the question very well, but I did feel that United's run was built on great performances from individuals, where City seems to be built on great team performances.
Which is why last night was quite encouraging because I thought it was a very good team performance against Sociedad.
Talking about United playing Sociedad, sorry.
Yeah. We might just quickly touch on United for a few minutes, but they played really well last night. They were a very cohesive unit against a team that's done quite well in the La Liga this year. They're not United's level player for player, but they've as a unit, David Silva and funny enough, Adnan Januzaj has made them a good team. So last night they showed, except for a chaotic kind of 6 to 8 minutes at the start, they were very good, and that's a kind of, you almost knew they were going to win that game, but that's the kind of mojo that Man City has. We'll just tip on to United, just kind of quickly cover that. So United are playing Newcastle, who have had kind of decent form lately with their new manager, their new coach have come in. Just quickly, how do you see the game going, and give us a score?
Newcastle, they're a team that don't mind even playing a low block at home. I know that was a Steve Bruce thing, but they'll have no problem defending this whole game. There's going to be United breaking the low block. I'd love to see Maxim play. I don't know if he's in favor with a new manager. I think he's a player that could cause United problems on the counter. United's ability to keep possession and get chances and do the things that they couldn't do against was it Brighton where they drew the last game? No, West Brom. But
West Brom,
it's that game. It's basically that game all over again. The stripes would look a little different, but it's the same team. So United need to score first and need to
Mhm.
snuff Newcastle out.
Yeah.
West Brom scored first in that game, and it gave them encouragement. And I thought that they were well worth the draw. But United need to kill this game early. And even though if you look at the Southampton game, United can kill teams off early
Yeah.
and win games. But how United start, and they're not great starters, will be very important.
Yeah. So I guess the positive news there for United, from a United perspective, is that Callum Wilson's out, the best player, best scorer of the season. Fabian Schär's out as well. But United do have
I
a few
bet he's
absentees.
regretting going to Newcastle. Seriously.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Tell me about it. So for United, Pogba, Cavani, McTominay's doubtful, Van de Beek doubtful, but I don't think he will get a game anyway. And of course, Phil Jones, Sean. Phil Jones is injured as well. I think hey, look,
Jones
it's a chance
injured.
for United to kick on from last night and just get a few more wins in the league. It felt a while since United had won last night, which is a good feeling. It's another kind of positive trend for the club
Like a
going forward.
win, didn't it? Yeah.
It was, yeah. I doubted them before, just thinking like this is the type of game, bottle kind of a semi-big European team. But they did well, and I'm happy with that. Did I say a score? Yeah, look, I think United are going to win. I think it's going to be like a 3-1 win. The times you think Fernandes has dropped off a bit, he comes and performs again. My God, that man is a player. What a
21
player.
goals this season. 21 goals.
40 goals and assists in 39 games. Come on. I thought Portuguese league was a farm league. And perhaps his goals aren't going to translate to trophies, the big trophies this year. It won't. But we have to win a trophy to keep him to stay. If you stop winning trophies, your eyes just kind of like, but I wouldn't blame you if he wants to go to Man City. I wouldn't blame him if United don't win trophies.
I
hope he
think
doesn't.
He'd probably do what Cristiano does and go to one of the big two Spanish teams. That's where
like a 200 million kind of thing in 2 or 3 years' time. It's sad, but no, that's the way it is.
If you play with De Jong and Griezmann in a midfield of Barcelona, scary.
Scary indeed. Any closing thoughts, Sham? And a player to watch this weekend?
I'm going to go with Henderson. I'm going to put on Henderson to get the win for Liverpool against Everton. I think he's a very important player in that game. Keep an eye on Richarlison as well. I think that Richarlison could be the guy who wins it for Everton. Big weekend for Liverpool. I think it's a big weekend. It's a big weekend for a few teams. The Leicester, Liverpool, United. They need to keep winning because the teams behind them aren't going anywhere. And we haven't talked about Chelsea. Who are Chelsea playing? I missed it here. Sorry, Chelsea are playing. I missed it. I'm on the wrong page.
Southampton.
So Southampton lost their last 6. So if Chelsea win that, they're back in the mix as well. Yeah. So I think that there's still a lot to play for in terms of ladder positions. Yes, City are probably, as in 90%, going to run away with it, maybe even more than that. But there's a lot of bumping and jostling behind. And if you are United and Leicester, you want to stay. You're 4 points ahead of 4th. You don't want to fall in that battle. You want to start looking upwards as opposed to looking over your shoulder. So some big games this weekend in terms of the significance to the season.
I completely agree. But for me, I think a nice little battle there would be Maddison against, well, not necessarily a battle, but a nice little showcase, but Maddison against Grealish. Both top players have had their moments during the season. Maddison seems to be, for me, Maddison is more of a very important piece of a midfield puzzle, whereas Jack Grealish is the key to the lock, if that makes sense. He's the guy. But I understand.
Maddison's been more part of a system, whereas Grealish seems to be more of a difference maker. Grealish is a Bruno's way, whereas
exactly.
Maddison's a bit more. I don't want to say De Bruyne, but I can't think of someone, but just someone who's part of the team that's doing the right things. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to be one of my choice games besides the United game this week. Perfect. And on that note, thanks so much for watching, everyone. My name is Suddy. This is Sham. We are the 5-Yard Pass podcast. Keep football simple. And as always,
keep passing, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm on fire.